Good evening and welcome, folks. We're steadily heading into December, and as that is the case, there's still results pending before that mid-season break. So that's the plan. Today, obviously, we catch up on what's been happening over the weekend, and there's a lot of news in the news cycle, and so we're going to get tucked into that. I just want to introduce you to my panel for this evening. Abina Okafor joins me alongside Kelvin Sosibo, and then we also have a special guest joining us here. He made it all the way down the River Nile to get down to South Africa, where he's been relaxing, and you'll see him. He looks very comfortable. Coach Kevin Johnson joins us here, formerly of Al Ali, but I know him from his stints, of course, with the likes of Platinum Stars, where, you know, he's always been credited with having a good soft touch when it comes to developing young talent. And maybe in some positions he's been in, not being afforded the opportunity to bring that talent through. But that's a whole discussion when we get him one-on-one one of these days. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. We're looking into this weekend that was. Let's start with one of the big talking points as far as what's buzzing on social media. And that is, of course, I don't want to call it the ejection of Tim Sukazi, but I mean, he certainly was not allowed to go see his team in their change room at the weekend for some odd reason. One that he's not even willing to ventilate at this point, because he has been going on a bit of a tuanyana of the different shows, kind of trying to explain what went down. Kelvin Sosibo, let's start with you. From your impressions, what did it look like was happening? And can you maybe guess as to why a whole owner wouldn't be allowed to the change rooms to see his team when it just seems to be standard practice and par for the course? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, Gamza, and good evening to the viewers. It was a very, very, very terrible scene to see a full owner not being allowed access to go and see his team. I think the league should be ashamed of this. This is something that shouldn't be common practice, where you bar your own chairman from interacting with his own team. Yes, all protocols were followed, COVID and so forth. And one of the words that Mr. Tim has echoed to: why give us all access cards, but then we cannot go to certain places? What is the use of it? You rather revoke it than if you're not going to allow us to the stadium. I don't know, because we also had a similar case with the national team coach, Mr. Brooks, who he tried to go and watch one of the Pirates game where he was trying to, where he was forming up our national team, trying to have some.
Yeah, he sent one of his assistants actually to that game, and he wasn't allowed in. Yes,
he was also not allowed. So I think it's becoming something that is becoming a norm at the Orlando Pirates, where they play those tricks. But I don't think this is a good picture for the league. And I think the sooner it gets resolved and let to not happen again, I think it will be better for the league, because as it's buzzing around the social media, it gave a very, very, very bad picture in terms of how our South African football is being run. We would love to see South African football grow to being one of the best leagues in the country, in the continent, and for us to be in the limelight for such behavior from a very big team. It was something that was very uncalled for. Let's hope that is being resolved and it never happened again.
Okay, Obina, I mean, what do you think was at play here? You know, some people reckon that maybe Tim's, you know, magic potions are more magical than the potions that are there already. And so that's why he wasn't allowed in. I don't know. You start having to think about these crazy things, trying to justify the kind of behavior we saw at the weekend. But what would be the reason, other than what I posited, to not allow a whole owner into the change rooms? What are you worried about?
Yeah, good evening to you and to the listeners. Look, as one of his former employee, I worked with Tim, and I was really shocked at the scene I saw, I think, on social media. Yeah, being that I know him too well, I know he's somebody with very hot temper when he's that kind of a person, you know. But then he's somebody with good charisma, you know, he wins people closer to him. But I was shocked until I started reading, getting to understand that also Pirates have I've had that kind of incident with Hugo Bruce. I just believe he's a target. I believe he's targeted, and the reason might be he's a charismatic somebody going to and you see, when things are not going well for teams, they intend to bring in too many tactics. This is not a news for me because I've been going through social media. I've been seeing it as a big thing, but being a coach that I just came back from Nigeria, and one of the biggest teams in Nigeria. Look, I see these things every day. It's a common things that happen in our league. To the extent sometimes even you as a coach, sometimes you travel to go and play again. They don't allow you into the stadium. They try to play all 40 tricks and all those things. But honestly, it's not good for the image. All I could say is not good for the whatever transpires is not good for the image, and whatever excuses the PSL are bringing up, are cooking up. I don't think it's really covering the whole story, because I was just going through the news now. I just saw where they're saying maybe that he didn't go through COVID protocols, but how can you give him access card if he doesn't go through the all necessary COVID-19 or whatever rules for that access card? So look, whatever they're doing, only the PSL or team could tell us what really happened. But let's not speculate. But I don't think it's good for the league. The image of the league is not good.
Yeah, no, Coach Gavin, I mean, we've always heard about these stories on the rest of the continent where, the mind games start long before the ball is kicked off. I mean, are these things that are kind of symptomatic of African football? I mean, did you ever find yourself as a coach, maybe with your time on Al Ahly, where teams are looking to, play the mental games long ahead of kickoff? And, what do you think it says about our league when we see scenes like what we saw of Tim Sukazi, an owner of a whole team, trying to get into Orlando Stadium to go see his own team before kickoff?
Hamza, in all respect to the PSL, I do believe that we want to be one of the best leagues on the African continent. And yes, we are very close to being that. But at the same time, with my travels with Platinum Stars, SuperSport, Sundowns, Al Ahly, it's happening in Africa. And until we as Africans understand these mind games that the previous guy spoke about, until we understand these mind games and put them aside, we won't get better. At the same time, the protocols that must be followed regarding ownership of a club. I mean, I've seen presidents being mishandled, but not to this extent. And for that, it boils down to respect. And I think that's something that we need to learn. We need to give an owner the respect. Yeah. Because when I see how they handled some of the other owners on the continent, then it is really, really with respect. Never mind what they do to the coaches, what do they do to the technical team. These are, I blame this on colonialism. We've been taught this, and we as Africans don't want to push it aside. We don't care who we upset. You understand? Right. And it's until our minds start changing. We keep on saying this is what happens in Africa. Africa has got the best players in the world. Right. And until we're able to tell ourselves that, we will be stagnant to the rest of the world. And they will just say, yeah, it's Africa again. Right. Forget about the pandemic. Forget about all those things. Those things don't bother me. It's how we handle certain people in certain positions in clubs. And yes, those things do happen. They do happen. I can tell you with Ali, we went to Niger and we actually, was it Niger or what one of the African countries, and we did not get undressed in the change room because there was a certain smell coming out from the air conditioners. And the players said, no, we don't want to. You understand what I'm saying? What I'm saying?
For sure.
So it
I hear you.
happens everywhere. But
Yeah.
our president was treated like gold.
Right.
He was given the
Yeah.
red carpet. He was given the ability to go in and go out like he wants to, because he's the
Right.
president of Al Ali. And the
Yes.
same with Tim Sukazi. He's the president of TS Galaxy. So he should be treated with respect.
For
And
sure.
that is, for me, the sad part, that we show the rest of the world what we are. Because
No,
like
exactly.
I say, look at the world and see who are the best players. The best players is African. The best player at Chelsea at the moment is Kante. What is he? He's not a Frenchman, he's an African. The best player at Liverpool at the moment, or the best two players, are African.
Yeah.
So until we knock our heads and say, guys, there's not only one or two that come out every season. There's 1 or 2 million that come out every season. And that's what we need to, we need to prove the rest of the world that we are good.
Yes, and
we
we're better than our
get better.
problems. Yes, of course.
Exactly.
Of course. Yeah,
We
I know.
attend. And I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
No, I hear you, Coach. Loud and clear. Loud and clear. I hear you.
That's how
And
I
I
feel
mean,
about it.
yeah, the league is going to have a problem because, Obina, to your point about, Tim and his charisma. I mean, we've got Kaizer has got loads of charisma. The new owner, Mr. Zungu, also has charisma. So I guess the league has a bit of a problem if they're going to try and, impede charismatic leaders literally at the doors of the stadium. We'll see how this one plays out. But gentlemen, thank you so much for your impressions. Moving on, is the announcement of a new mid-season cup tournament. It's called the DSTV Compact Cup. Essentially, there'll be 2 streams, coastal and inland. Where have you heard that before? And there'll be, 2 in each stream of teams. So essentially what you'll have is teams such as Baroka in the mix, but they're alongside, strangely enough, I guess they had to find somewhere to put them. They're in a stream that sees them alongside the likes of Stellies, Cape Town City and Chipa. That's Coastal 2. Coastal 1 is made up of Arrows, Amazulu, Royal AM, and Maritzburg. Inland 1 is made up of Chiefs, Pirates, Swallows, and Galaxy. Inland 2 made up of Sundowns, SuperSport United, Gallants, and Sekhukhune. So what happens here is that the public will vote. You have 5 players from one team as a maximum that you can put into the mix. And each squad will be made up of 26 players that are voted for by the public. Seems to tick all the boxes, guys. Kelvin Sosibo, is this a master stroke of marketing genius, or is it just another way of loading the players with a game that, in the greater scheme of things, means nothing to their season? And it is a week long, it must be said. So, your assessment, is this what we needed right now?
I'm caught in between. I'm caught in between. It's a yes and a no, but I'm
A yes and a no.
I'm leaning towards to a yes side because yes, there's going to be some football that will be played.
There'll be AFCON, mate. There'll be AFCON, mate.
Yes, I do understand that, but I'm saying it's just maybe to reward the fans, maybe that haven't been going to the stadiums, and for all those who are vaccinated, I think this will be the opportunity for them to be at the stadium, even though maybe it's a way of them trying to give this a smaller trial in terms of how we're going to respond. So opening up within the festive activation, as we saw with the national team, where they sent like 2,000 people to go and watch. Maybe this would be an opportunity to see if this plan can work and can be implemented. Yes, players need that rest, even though I feel that's, for me, it's more in terms of the marketing side, because I looked at it in many dimensions, that the players that will be involved. Say, for instance, if players are injured, I see there's also whereby there is medical cover for players that will be injured during the course of this tournament. So PSL will take responsibility of that. And I also see that the tournament will be played in 2 weeks. It's a 2 weekends cup. So yeah, there is some soccer that will be there, even though there will be AFCON as well. But I think the bigger stroke here would be about trying to make up the revenue loss. In a way, this is how I view it. Maybe the PSL trying to make some money out of this while they bring in this tournament to the table.
Okay, and I'm going to speak to your co-coaches and start with you, Coach Kevin. I mean, as a coach, when you hear an announcement like this, how much dread or maybe conversely excitement would you be filled in with? How would this integrate, having a tournament like this with the coaches' plans, knowing that some players maybe have gone to represent their countries, you're getting ready for the second half of the season? Would this be something welcome in helping you decide who is going to help you, get the desired result in that second half of the season?
For me, being a technical person, I look at it many ways. Number one is, what if I am a TS Galaxy, for example,
right?
And I have no national players in my team, and none of them are going away. So I have my whole team, and I'm only allowed to put 5 players on the table.
Right.
The 5 players that go on the table for the bidding
aren't even your choice.
Are not even my first choice players. The second part is okay. If I do that, who's going to coach these players? Because they're going to have them for 2 games, and they might not play the 2 games, and they come back either overloaded or underloaded as far as physical conditioning is concerned. So also they miss out 2 weeks on what I'm planning to do to get off from the bottom of the log, to get somewhere where we're safe and save my chairman 50 million rand.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are things that I'm going to throw at my chairman when I sit with him, because I'm not going to sit with the PSL. I'm going to sit with my chairman.
Right.
Say, Mr. Chairman, what are you going to do? These players, or these are the most important players. These players are not worth 5 cents. This player is worth 5 million. What happens if he? Yes, I can understand PSL taking the brunt for the medical part. But what happens if he breaks his leg and he's out for more than 1.5 seasons?
Yeah, for sure.
What happens then? We lost out on a big thing.
Sure.
Or otherwise, you take a player that's been earmarked for a big transfer overseas, and my chairman's about to make 500,000 US dollars. What do we do? Do we say yes or do we say no? We've already got half the contract in our pocket, and the chairman says, hey, 500,000 US dollars is a lot of money. All he has to do is stay fit and be ready to go over. We've got the contract, it's signed. What do we do? Because nobody knows these things, but we've got the contract. What do we do? Fake COVID or do something else. So I think there's more questions to be answered, or more questions to be thrown. I can understand the where the PSL is coming from, because I've been involved. My daughter plays hockey, and they've been doing it for the last 2-3 seasons. But hockey is an amateur sport,
right?
And the more you put them together, it creates a lot more scouting, if you want
for
to say.
them. Yeah, in that context,
it's a bigger in that context. It's a bigger scouting, and they've got coaches that they earmark over the year to say, okay, you coach this team, you coach that team, you coach. I'd like to know who's going to coach these teams over those 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Are they going to bring in completely new? Because I'd also like to say, throw in amateur coaches. All the NFT coaches or all the ABC coaches, get the best out of there and say, okay, you're going to coach these teams now.
Right.
Then it's a different ball game. But I think there's more questions to be asked from a technical point of view than from a financial and marketing point of view.
Okay.
And social point of view.
Okay, cool.
I think there's more there's more questions to be asked from that area than specifically running the competition.
Okay. Obina, you'll have the final say on this, but what do you make of the selection mechanism? Letting it be open to the public? Is that something you agree with? As a technical person yourself, would you prefer to have more of a professional approach, a stats-based approach, maybe, to the selection of the players that are being included? Or do you think it's okay to have a bit of harmless fun and include the public in selecting, the top 5 players from their favorite team?
Look, I think whatever I have to say doesn't mean a thing to them. Firstly, I'll just say I think it's high time SAFA needs to employ people that will help them periodize the program during the whole calendar year. That also help the players. We want to see good football being played. Sometimes we cry about the players and everything, but we don't look at the fatigue we create with these players, being that football has been commercialized. Whoever or however they want to select the players. Look, the selection, like Coach Kelvin said, you get any coach to come and coach my own players that I have to use for these 2-3 weeks to plan for the season. It's like you coach and somebody is recoaching again. He comes back again, then you have to start recoaching. So I think there is no way SAFA is helping teams, and for me, I just believe this whole thing is about money.
Yeah, and let me say it's not SAFA, it's the PSL, just so we can get that.
PSL.
Yeah.
Then I was just going through Ernst just wrote that he's just imagining releasing him, that he's trying to go out from wherever situation he is in on the dog. Then he wants to use this time to prepare these players, because when you look at his team, it's like they're a team that sells, they buy. He's rebuilding team every season. So this 2 weeks or 3 weeks gives him much time again to create something with those players. But now he needs to release 5. He needs to release 5 of his good players out. Then maybe 1 or 2 might come back injured. Look, there is no way, really, for me. There is a big no, it's a big no.
Yeah.
But what can we do about it? Football has been commercialized. Even overseas, they're still complaining, in England, in Germany. So I don't know. We just take it the way we see it. I just don't have anything to say about it.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. No.
Comes on the preparation side, the coach is right in a way that if you are a team that is sitting at the bottom, I think it makes more sense that you need to have more time within the players, which you get the full understanding and be able to fix your defect in terms of where you went wrong, where can you improve, which players need attention, injuries, and so forth. So when you're going to have some of the players that are key players on your team being away, remember, once they come back, you have to recalibrate the same players. Because whatever they would have learned there, do we know who's the type of coaches that will be there? Are they in line, or do they have the same concepts within what I teach or what I want my players to learn? Is the coach that will be there to embed the same information that I give it to my players? Because if that's the case, can they have highly qualified coaches who will be there to be able to assemble those teams, knowing very well that I, as a coach, I know that players going there, they will be able to pick up those small details in terms of where players need to be brushed up. So then whenever they need to come back, it's either they're going to come back an improved player or a player that will come back being blunt. So I think that's where the worrying comes about.
Improve on what sense? Or is it on another coach philosophy and style, or in what? I just want to know the improvement.
He's saying like when the players come back, they'll be like, I can play now like a Pirates player because I was next to one. I don't know.
Because that's the thing. We're in a season that the coach has a plan. He's trying to integrate whatever he has. Then you're trying to go and recoach him. Another thing, look, guys, let's not even go there, guys. There is nothing about this in football. Honestly, it's just commercial money. Let them make the money, but football-wise, honestly, there is nothing to talk about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Those of you watching, we want to
not-
get your thoughts. Let us know, Kelvin. What do you want to say?
It's not. Yes, I understand. To the teams that are at the bottom, it's not beneficial. For the teams that are competing at the top, also they will feel as if it's going to disrupt the momentum. But at the teams that are mid-table, they are not worried that much, because which are the players that are going to be selected there from the bottom to mid-table? That's another
Calvin,
question that you have to look at, because I think
Calvin, if you
go ahead,
if you look at it now, and you take the table, Gamza, and you say, okay, who's the one running away? It's Sundowns.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? From number 2 right down to number 16.
Yeah.
The point difference is not that big.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The point difference is not that big.
Yeah.
So everybody is in the same boat.
So essentially, we can throw a
professional
cat
coach
amongst the pigeons here, because that's what it is. It's like now you're bringing in this variable that you don't know how it's going to impact the rest of the season for these teams moving forward.
Because if you're an astute coach, and like Obina said, if you do your periodization properly, the best team to coach in the next half will be number 6 or number 7 or number 17, number 5 or number 16. If you look at the table, the number 5 or number 6 team on the table now is probably the best team to coach. And I put my money, if you have a good coach at 5 or 6, he can win the league.
How do you figure that one, Coach? Explain that rationale there real quick.
If he knows what to do.
Yeah.
Because yes, Sundowns are 14 points away, but if you play your cards properly, and you lay your team out properly, and you prepare them well for the next half, 5 or 6 can catch Sundowns.
Right.
Because between 2 and 16, the points difference is not very big.
Yeah.
So there'll always be cup finals being played every week.
Every year, yeah.
Every week. Okay, let's look at the weekend that was as far as the results are concerned. We all know about the huge breakout of COVID cases in the Kaizer Chiefs camp. They were able to cobble the team together for their weekend engagement with the Sekhukhune United, one that they in the end won 2-0. Jabulo Blom, far and away probably the best player on the pitch for Kaizer Chiefs. But many will beg the question then, Obina, does it take a crisis of COVID cases for a young player like him to get a look in, especially when he's done so well with that opportunity that he was given at the weekend to start the game?
Okay. He did very well, and every coach will be proud having such a player given an opportunity like that, be it whatsoever. Then he grabbed it with both hands, the hunger, the way he played, the confidence, he portrayed on that game. Whatever people could say that Sekhukhune didn't come into the game, but then we could just appreciate the way the guy was reading the space, in between the spaces, getting the ball in between the defenders, the midfielders. So he was just doing well. But, one thing people should realize is that in a team like Kaizer Chiefs, it's not easy for him to break into that team, regardless playing such a game. You still have players that could come back and still take over, being a youngster like that, yes, he's been in the team for the past 2 seasons, but again, you cannot just push him too much into the team. Having such a wonderful game, if I'm able to be the coach, if I was the coach, I'll be able, next match, I'll just keep him to watch from the bench to come in again, So I think he has so much talent that they need to build him gradually, and he needs to come into the team gradually. But we don't want to push him so much that he had a good game this week, then the next game you throw him in, and remember, Chiefs.
But Obina, at what age do you push him? Because he's 22 now, so if you're not pushing him at the age of 22, what are you waiting for exactly?
Look, he's age 22, he's time to push, but one thing is, in the level he is, I don't coach him daily. I don't know the kind of mental strength he possesses. you know, for me not to break him or for me to know if he's ready. But whoever that coaches him know if he's ready to continue playing, you know, day in, day out, being a team like Kaizer Chiefs. That it's not a team like Maritzburg that, you know, when you play a game, you know, it's not, every game is not a final. But when you play Kaizer Chiefs, every game you play is a final because any team you play is prepared to play against you. So all I'm just saying is just to know the way to guide the guy to grow perfectly. I know when Percy Tau, when he came to us with in Witbank Spurs, Percy was still a Sundowns player. We loaned him we sold him to Sundowns. Then he came back on loan. He was about, I think, 21 then. You know, but he was not pushed in Sundowns. But when he went back from Spurs to Sundowns, that is when he broke into the team.
Right.
So I just believe the way you handle that boy at the moment, because now his name is all over South Africa now. So the way you handle him will give him that thing to grow tomorrow. So I just believe the coach there knows how to handle. But for me, if I'm inside, I can tell you more. But outside, I really appreciate the way he played.
Okay. Speaking of coaching, Coach Kevin, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, they should probably just let Arthur now carry on coaching the team. But as someone who works as part of a technical team, hey, man, not my handwriting. As someone who works as part of a technical team, you know, can you explain to the viewing public how this works? You know, let's posit that Coach Pizzo had a touchline ban and you're the one now who must go to the sideline and deputize for him. Surely you're not coming up with a whole new scheme and a new tactic for the players to play outside of what the main man and the head coach would have briefed in. So what are people getting wrong about this? They're seeing Arthur, they're seeing the result, and they think it's up to him. Can you correct the perception, or you know, tell us if that's indeed true?
Gamza, sometimes I want to answer something just before on this on when you throw a player in.
Yeah.
And I want to make a bold statement that in my time as a coach, and I think Obinus, he says it just like an African, but he doesn't know that Obi Miguel was coached by me at 16 years old.
Right.
At 17, he played for Chelsea United.
I remember. Yeah, I know.
So at 17, you weren't pushing him too much. Yeah.
No, he was pushing himself. But that is the mentality.
But he was not
from
17 then, Coach. Coach, he was not 17 then.
He was 18. He was 18 when he made the...
I'm saying he was not really 18.
He was 18 when he made the...
Oh, he's not really 18.
His passport was 18.
Was he older?
I'll tell you something. I played in a team.
Was older?
I played in a team where when Mikel was 17, 18, he was still coming into the team when I was still playing. So Mikel coming here telling us he's 17. That was after like 8 years later. He's still 17, 16.
Oh my goodness. Obina, what are you saying?
Stop.
Oh, okay. No, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting curveball.
No, it's the truth.
Okay, Coach. So to your point, whether he was that age or not, you're saying that as long as a player mentally is willing to push themselves, then you can come up behind him and push him into the team.
I can hear Coach.
We lost Coach. We lost Coach's audio. Coach, you can hear us. We can't hear you. So your iPad.
He's muted.
Can you hear me?
There we go. You're back.
Am I okay now?
Perfect, Coach. Go for it.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to give you guys a scenario again, going back to young players coming in. I believe, and I've done this many, many times in the PSL. I can name the players. Abumelo Khodisang, Gift Links. There's a few, Stephen Pinar, Dominic Isaacs. They all played PSL football in 18 and they were ready. Season after season. It depended on the coach that was handling how many players. The current left back at the Kaizer Chiefs now, Mabiliso. Mabiliso. They signed him from Amazulu. He came from the development of Platinum Stars. He came to Amazulu and he played 35 games in the PSL, non-stop. He was 18. Right? So what I'm saying is we should get away from the mentality that a 17-year-old is not ready to play in the PSL. He's still a youngster. I believe a 22-year-old is way past being a youngster. He is at his peak. A football player from 21 to 29, that's their peak of their life. That's the time when they got to make the most money. That's the time they got to make the most money. Our players, unfortunately, in South Africa, at 31 and 30, they get in their best contract they ever had in their life, which is completely wrong.
Right.
They should get their best
what are
money
you
at 21.
rewarding? Exactly.
What you're rewarding nothing. Reward them at 21. Make them rich at 21. Make sure they live a proper life at 21. And if they don't do it, then there's something wrong as far as the development is concerned. But neither here nor there. Gamza, it's a very, very long story, and I've got a lot of facts that I can throw up as far as that's concerned.
Right.
Youngster or not a youngster anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You asking me about what the coach does? Yeah. Look, I have experience, not experience, but I've done it with Gordon. I've done it with Pizzo. I played 2 early games where he had COVID. I played a Champions League game, the first champion.
Oh, I'm gonna see if the coach makes it back. He's frozen for a little bit. Coach got disconnected, but we're gonna get him back. Coach, you're back. If you can hear me, just make sure your mic is back on. And then yes, you can pick up. Yeah, can hear you loud and clear. You said you were on the sidelines for the first Champions League game while Coach Pizzo was down with COVID.
The mic.
Is the mic off? The mic is off. I'm coming to your house, Coach, and I'm going to set up that iPad so that you don't have this problem in future. I'm coming to your house. I'm coming over, and I'm going to help you with the iPad.
It's Fidel.
Isn't it?
Got to speak to Fidel.
Okay. I'll
Can
speak
you hear
to
me
him.
now?
I can hear you loud and clear. Go for it, Coach.
Yeah, and what I want to say is that it's a team effort. Like I say, I was on the dugout with Niger, our first game in the Champions League. I was in the dugout for two early games, which we won. We won all 3 games, but he was there. He was there in spirit.
Right.
And you have to look at it as a team. There's no one person the only person that leads the team is the head coach. And if I'm not there, then the next in charge has to lead the team.
Right.
But he leads the team with our philosophy and all this. Maybe the team will have a different flair on the day, but it's not necessarily meaning that he coaches the team better than I would.
Okay.
And maybe if I coach the team on that day, we could have won 6 instead of 2. But it depends on how you handle the team. It's like.
So what do you think Adozan is getting right then, Coach? What is he
talking now after Zwane and winning?
Yeah. So I mean, is it one of those things where it's generational? I'm asking what Adozan is getting right, Coach? Is it because he's newly retired, or he's not been out the game as long as someone maybe who would be an older coach? Is it because then he can relate to these players, speak to them in a way that they understand, that helps enhance their performance? How is he able to get what looks like to be a better playing Chiefs side? It might be Coach Baxter's tactics underpinning the whole thing, but like you say, what is he doing to get a different kind of flair out of those players?
Look, from watching, pardon.
No worry, Coach.
Watching Arthur, from far,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting close to him, speaking to him just before we beat Kaizer Chiefs in the Champions League. He's got a very soft nature, and he's cut his teeth very well at Kaizer Chiefs. And in all respect, he's also helped some of these players get into the first team. So in one moment, maybe at certain moments, he's getting the better out of them only because he's on the line. So he gives them a little bit of extra maturity, extra confidence going on.
No, I think we lost the coach on that point there. Well, we're going to try to get him back. But Calvin Sosibo, take me through the tactical approach in that game. Coach, we're going to come back to you in a sec. I'm just going with Calvin now just to give me his technical perspective of how, Coach Baxter, with the help of Coach Zwane and the rest of the guys on the bench like Sheppy, got that performance because, Calvin, they look to be very much in control for a large part of that game.
Yeah, very true. A very big mental week for Kaizer Chiefs as they were affected by COVID. I think they stuck it out. They came out gun blazing. What I saw with Kaizer Chiefs was a Kaizer Chiefs that was high in confidence. It was a team that was willing to fight for one another. For me, I saw a great concept, a corporate identity onto how the team is supposed to be playing. I also saw the ideas that were being embedded by the coach on wanting to play the Kaizer Chiefs system. Yes, the coach is right. One of the points to take home was those players that were playing at the end of the day that were being fielded. It's players that are trying to reward the coach for trusting and believing in them. So they will give that extra yard, making sure that they pass, they get that extra pass correctly, preserve the ball, the running, the fighting spirit. This is what we saw in this Kaizer Chiefs. I saw a team that was motivated. We saw players that believe and had a conviction, a clear idea in terms of how the Chiefs style of play is supposed to be. The creativity, hard running, mixed play, direct, and creativity in the final third. These were some of the elements that we saw in this game, which is how they actually scored their goals. Mentally, the character on players, and after a tough week, we saw in them bouncing back from not playing for a week, and then they came back and then they won 2-0. They're sitting second on the log right now. Players also not being too complacent, that you could see some of the players' attitude that they wanted to better themselves. This goes back again to the mental side of it. The fighting spirit was very visible on the Kaizer Chiefs team. Key players that I picked out was, yes, the Novo that we just spoke about, which was a player that had a lot of creativity, played freely, wasn't under pressure, wanted to show what he can do at the end of the day. We saw also Nange scoring his goal as well from the creativity from Sekhukhune. You also saw Novo also being involved in the front three, making sure that they create those opportunities. Also in the back line, even though there was changes, I was also happy with Akpe coming back to this game, keeping a clean sheet. It was good to see. Marshalling the team from the back was one of the most important elements, because for them not to concede, it was a good instruction that was exhibited from the back. The integration also with Dube was well informed with playing with Cardoso. We saw a very solid and a comfortable team that wanted to play out of defense to the midfield to the front pack. And those are just a few points that I actually picked up. A very well-deserved performance from Kaizer Chiefs. What a way to bounce back. Even though they were affected by COVID, we do understand that, but fashioning out this result and getting a solid team to compete. Yes, most people will say, why doesn't Arthur continue? But remember, this is a team effort, a collective, even though the only extra thing that is there is that maybe as coaches put it out that Arthur is a soft person, so he gets the message clear. The respect is there within the players.
Right. No, I hear you. Obina, on the opposite side, I mean, you look at Sekhukhune, they've been playing regular football. They didn't have the interruption of the COVID breakout in their camp. And then you have a Chiefs team that are slightly refreshed in that, obviously they haven't been playing regular football. And so the players might be better rested. Is that what we saw at the weekend? Just a fresh, sharper side taking advantage of one that's been playing week in, week out? Or were they just, for all intents and purposes, better than Sekhukhune on the day? Because Coach Mack, after the game, reckons Sekhukhune could have easily won that one.
Nah, lies.
Nah, he's lying. Okay, cool. I'll let him know.
I think sometimes in football it's about who wanted the most that day.
Yeah.
And Kaizer Chiefs proves to everyone that they wanted it most, regardless the situation they were coming out from. Because when we look at the game, the possession, the display that Kaizer Chiefs did, they played more like a team that has been training, that has been on game time for so long, and not even sure that most of the team that they were depleted in terms of the first team players, So, but one thing you cannot take out is the way Kaizer Chiefs performed. Sekhukhune could have played better if they met a team, a Kaizer Chiefs team that played differently. But the Kaizer Chiefs team they made Sekhukhune looks as if they were not a good team, but it's not as if they were not a good team. But they made a team that was on fire. They were hot. Their passes were accurate. The short passes, the long passes. The passes in between the lines. For me, Kaizer Chiefs were just top that day. Don't take anything away from Kaizer Chiefs, but Sekhukhune also were a good team. For them to be on the position they are, I don't believe is by fluke anyway. Whatever they've done so well. But I think Kaizer Chiefs that they dismantled them, and for me, it's just for them to go back, regroup, rethink, just think about the way they go wrong. Because I just believe their pressing was just wrong. They got their pressing all wrong, but playing they did well, but the way they closed Kaizer Chiefs was just wrong. So I wouldn't take anything away. It was just a Kaizer Chiefs day that day. So let's give it to them.
Okay. And then finally on this one, Coach, we've seen it now for another season. Last season, it was, Swallows FC coming up and starting like a house on fire. This time around is Sekhukhune coming up and, also setting the scene ablaze. What is it about teams that are newly promoted that helps them kind of, get such a strong acclimatization, shall we call it, to the top flight? And I mean, are you surprised by it at all? We're seeing teams come up and literally able to box with the best outside of the team at the top of the table. Why do you think that is? Is it a lot of that them being not an unknown entity and the coaches not knowing their head coaches and how to plan against them?
Comes a lot of time, and I always believe that if the NFD is a very, very strong league, and you got to be astute to win that league and come up into the PSL. And once you're in the PSL and you know what you're doing, you will get good results in the first half of the season. It's what they do in the second half of the season when everybody knows what they're all about, and then who the coach is all about, where the coach comes from. But I believe like we're talking about Kaizer Chiefs, I believe football is about space and time. If you have space and you have time, you can play football anywhere in the world. And football is about, it's not about 11v11. Football is about 3v3, 2v2, 1v1, spaces and time. And when you look at Kaizer Chiefs on Saturday, I think the key player there, for me, it was Bernard Parker on Saturday. He doesn't get space and time in all the other games people play. And he had space and time to make that team tick. Like he wears the armband, he made them tick. And for me, that is the key part of any big team. You look at when Barcelona was at the top, who was the best player at Barcelona? I think Busquets was the best player at Barcelona. When Xavi was playing, when Iniesta was playing, when Messi was playing, the best player on the pitch was Busquets. And nobody talks about that. The best player at Chelsea, when they're at the best, is Kante. He makes the team tick. He makes the team play. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
This is what I believe. At the moment, you have the best player at Liverpool is Salah and Sadio Mane, but who makes that team tick? Who makes that team go forward? For me, it's the centre back. He's so good at how he's passing, plays one touch or two touch, and never ever loses the ball. So everybody else just picks up one more touch. And that's what Bernard Parker did on Saturday. He never lost one ball. You know,
so is that role of the
whereas in
quarterback
other games,
almost? It's almost like taking the leadership role of a quarterback in the NFL, where everything kind of happens through them. You know, is that the same kind of leadership that they're exhibiting? Yeah.
And if they're on fire, then everything else happens on fire.
For sure.
I said, what did Arthur bring? Arthur brought confidence to Blom. He brought confidence to Mshini, because they are players that have come through him in their development. So he gives them that. He gives them that confidence. You understand what I mean? He gives them that boldness to be on the pitch, to be a Kaizer Chiefs player, because he himself has been a Kaizer Chiefs player. So he can bring that. And that's the culture that has to be bred for many years to come in order to make sure that they stay on top, or they stay on top of their game forever.
Okay, cool.
And that's what
Thank
I
you very
learned
much.
in Egypt.
Nice. Well, there we go. Coach Kevin Johnson joining us on Monday Night Football, us picking his brain. He's alongside Calvin Sosibo and Obina Okafor joining me to discuss the matches at the weekend. Moving on to the next one. And this saw the Tshwane Derby happening, where Sundowns were able to get one over SuperSport, a depleted SuperSport side due to positive cases as far as COVID is concerned. But they did give them a good run of their money, with Shalulile racking up his 12th goal, Calvin Sosibo. You know, I mean, looking at the squad and the way they're playing and how they've been tested in the league, do you think these are the right preparations for them moving into continental competition next year?
Indeed, these are the good preparation. I think everybody can bear witness to that. That's how on how Sundowns have been playing. I think they've been one of the most comfortable team that you would say that they're going to win any match at this point. They have a lot of personality in the bench. They're blessed with depth. The players that are being used now, you know, if a striker is injured, somebody will come in. As we saw, Kutumela got injured, Seruno got on. He knew exactly what he was supposed to do on the field. So you're finding a team that is well in sync. The concept of Sundowns is working pretty well. Those coaches that are there has instilled confidence on those players. They open the gap up, 14 points lead at the top, 15 matches played, 37 points. Last 5 games, 3 wins, 2 draws, 26 goals in 15 matches. And what I've picked up that we saw an absence of Anyango coming back, also keeping a clean sheet. Shaulile, on the last 5 games, he has scored 3 goals. That's a top score for a striker, scoring 3 goals in 5 matches. And Deruk, being the man of the match, it also gives you an idea in terms of how solid they are at the back, trying to minimize spaces. I like how they position themselves in their rest defense, not allowing those counterattacks, as a team that likes to play with a variation, a high line and a low line, which allows them to press team, always activate that counter press for Sundowns, which is where they win most of their games, because teams will always try and have space and time to play. And immediately when you look up, Sundowns will set up those pressing traps beautifully so that they can get the ball back and start dictating the game. And once Sundowns has the ball, this is when now they build their confidence in terms of playing around and searching, overloading one area to isolate another, playing between the lines, having the Mshini coming in, freeing Shaulile to make those runs into half spaces. This is a team that is well drilled, well oiled, well coached, which doesn't miss anything, because any player that will be thrown into that pitch will always come in and deliver, which is a nice point whereby we saw a lot of teams are trying to have reinforced defenders, but now Sundowns will always have those solutions to go bypass those reinforced defenders, use the width play to separate the center backs pairing. This is one of the beautiful things that we have seen from those coaches. All those 3 minds are coming beautifully together and they're fashioning a win. And congratulations to those coaches for winning Coach of the Month, Mr. Rulani and Mr. Mangoba.
Okay, no, there we go. Coach Kevin, looking at that Sundown squad, are you, having been at Al Ali, I'm sure, you would have kept tabs on how they're strengthening and how they're getting better. the likes of Peter Shalulile really being important for a team like this. You got the young Mayema coming through the ranks. Are you convinced that the squad can go all the way in that competition?
In one moment, I've always played against Sundowns as an opponent, and they've never beaten me. Reason being is, I think, again, Hamza, is that you got to look at, like I said, a Bernard Parker, like I said, a Dalen Klassen. When they're on song, what do? For me,
get the ball to them, yeah.
Sundowns without Zwane, you can compete with them. He's the player that makes them tick. But they've got good technical players behind him who's able to feed him the ball. So you've got to find in their back line or in their midfield who is the weakest link, who's feeding the ball. Because, like I say,
who is that? Who is the weakest
space
link
on the ball that they've created, that Rulani and Manoba and Steve have created, their time and space on the ball is unlimited. So you cannot see the weakest link. You've got to find him. For me, I don't think I should tell you on radio, because you've got to find him and force the ball to him.
Right.
And that's what I always did.
I know.
I would always look for the weakest link in their defense. And
Coach,
when the defenders or
Calvin
the
reckons he knows who you're talking about. Calvin says he knows. Yeah, he says he knows which player you might be referring to. Which one, Calvin?
And forget about the overloading and the underloading that they do.
Yeah.
I forget about the overloading and underloading which they do, which they are really, really exceptionally good at. And they've been doing this for a long time now. And they're just getting better and better at it. You've got to know what to do. Don't give them the space in the middle of the pitch. Give them the space wider of the pitch, because then you can compete with them. But at the same time, you've got to find, I've always, when I competed against Sundowns, I always found the weakest link and allowed him to either the weakest link or the slowest player. And don't give them the time and the space on the ball. Because they are all quality players. They are all quality players. In their own right, they are quality players. But you've got to analyze that, Calvin, at a different level. And then you've got to set them up. Because once you set them up and you allow them to chase the game, you have a chance that you can beat them again, and you can get one or two more goals after that. But you've got to be clever as to how you do it, because there's no doubt about it. They have the best players in South Africa on the pitch at the moment.
Right.
Okay. So how do you beat that? You've got to beat that at their own strength. So I do believe SuperSport gave them a good run for their money. They could have scored in the first 5 minutes, SuperSport, and if that happens, then it's a different ball game. But the best teams in the world win by 1-0.
Sure.
And the other team would say, you know what? We had a chance. You had no chance. You win by 1-0 or you win by 10-0.
It's the
it
same
doesn't
win.
matter. You still got 3 points.
Right.
And I always say, what I believe in is, if you score, I coach my teams, if you score 2 goals, I score 3 goals. If you score 4 goals, I should be able to score 5 goals.
Right.
Because then that's a football game.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So if you score 1 goal, then I should score 2 goals. In the end,
someone must win.
We want to. Yeah. We can blow square bubbles. You lost the game 1-0.
Right.
It doesn't matter. But you've got to give credit to both teams for doing a good job. But Sundowns were better. They won 1-0.
Sure.
They got the 3 points.
In the end. Obina, I'll let you have the final word on this one. SuperSport United, what are this team? We hear about them being in transition. We hear about them, still kind of finding their feet with the youngsters, the likes of Mbule. What is the best they can hope for? I mean, is this a title challenging side? Are they just party poopers? Are they just, how would you characterize their impact on the league, SuperSport United?
I think they've gone from a team that that are supposed to be title contenders to be an average team for quite some long time. When we were still playing, when Piso was there coaching, he made that team. They were winning cup games, most of the cup games. He brought the team up, but I think ever since he left, they're more now concentrating on development of players, bringing players. They concentrated on their development. I think they're one team, also one of the top team that brings out boys from development since Ajax is no more there. But again, you have to choose one thing. It's just like Arsenal. Arsenal is a big team, but you cannot be a big team, be bringing young players, and you want to win the league. You have to choose. It's either you bring in players to sell, or you buy players to win the league. And that's what Sundowns has done very well. Give credit to the scouts of players, the scouts of Sundowns, the way they scout their players, the way they've gone recruiting players. You can talk about anything. I just believe being a good coach is the first thing to be able to identify a player that suits your style of play. That's the first thing that makes you a good coach. So for Sundowns, they've done that. But I think SuperSports have gone out of that. I think we are the one that are still looking SuperSports as the name, the SuperSports before, when Piso was there winning trophies, and when Gavin Hunt went there, but I think they've gone away since Gavin left. They've gone to a team that becomes an average team. They just bring in players. They want to stay in the league. They want to compete. I just believe they're a different team. Because if you look at the team, how many top players have they bought? I don't think you can compare it to Sundowns or Kaizer Chiefs at the moment.
Okay, no, cool. Well, let's move on. There's another result that we need to touch on before we run out of time. And coach, this one saw Fadlu Davids and Mandla Nligazi, band together to get a good solid victory over the weekend against TS Galaxy. We're seeing this collaboration, obviously Sundowns leading the way with the co-coaches, and now we're seeing the rapport that's been built up between coach Mandla Nligazi and Fadlu, who obviously knew each other from their time at Maritzburg. But is there something to be said for the meeting of the minds and bringing in, two coaches to almost combine and become a super coach? What do you make of the model and how Fadlu and Mandla are doing?
Look, from a person looking out comes a outside looking in. It's taken them a bit of a time. And you must remember, they were both assistant coaches before they became head coaches.
Oh, we lost the coach. Fidel's going to bring him back and mute him. We'll try and get a thought out of him before we run out of time. Calvin Sosibo, Pirates at the weekend. He's back, but we're going to bring him in when the mic is ready. Calvin, very quickly, your thoughts, though, on Pirates at the weekend against Galaxy. What did you make of that encounter?
Well, for me, it was a very good open game. I think Pirates played well on this one. They did the most simplest thing in the field, which was to keep position, force the opposition to look for the ball. Again, it was a game of spaces, preserving the ball. They wanted to keep more position with the team. They were creating more opportunities. This 2-0 victory puts them at the top, number 3. Which for me, I feel that Pirates are eventually now trying to get the momentum going. The players now are starting to respond to the game, to the coach's tactics. They're starting to get confidence because, as I said before on the last podcast, was all Pirates needs right now is just that they just need maybe 1 or 2 wins for them to really accelerate that confidence and go to the next gear. So for me, one of the players that I've picked up in this game, Shandu, who got the man of the match, having a good run in the first starting 11, scoring his first goal. Also, the introduction of Ndai, the centre back. I think this is one of the guys that needs to be given credit to when he came in. A lot of people were in doubt in terms of how he's going to settle down, because you have to understand that if you're coming out from another country, it's hard for you to settle in the country. because it's new culture, new environment, the weather, the climate, all of those things get into play. But I think Da has settled down very well. He has made that backline to be solid, and they're making sure that the philosophy of Orlando Pirates now is starting to be seen by fans and also the coaches. The ideas that have been put forward for the team to go forward. I think for me, it's one of the points that I've really enjoyed watching that backline. You could hardly see one of the players that has been criticized being brought into the pitch.
Okay, there we go. A very quick assessment there from Kelvin. We've run out of time, and that's why we have to rush things along, folks. But remember, we're going to chop this up and bring you all the best bits throughout the week. Just keep it locked to the Front Runner social media channels such as Twitter, and of course, set up your notifications on YouTube by clicking subscribe, and then you'll know exactly when all this content drops in its highlight package form. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to my panel. It's been really illuminating. We've got Calvin who was joining us. We've got Obina as per usual joining us. But then our special guest this evening was Coach Kevin Johnson, who's taking some time out. So hopefully we'll be able to engage him a bit more over the next coming weeks, right, Chair? And I'm going to make sure Fidel sends him not the router that Calvin uses, because sometimes that gives us issues. So we're going to find another router